It began as the kind of Christmas trend that seems to appear out of nowhere, a charming yet unique decoration that quickly became a must-have for the holiday season. This year, it was a handcrafted snow globe, intricately designed with a miniature Victorian village inside. Its glass dome captured the perfect essence of nostalgia, while a delicate mechanism inside created a swirling snow effect. It was no surprise that the snow globe, dubbed the Winter Whispers Globe, was the runaway hit of the year, selling out in record time. Retailers couldn't keep it in stock, and online marketplaces saw bidding wars erupt over the few remaining units. Families proudly displayed the globe as their centerpiece, enchanted by its ethereal beauty and soft musical tune that played when the bass was wound. But as Christmas approached, whispers of unease began to spread. Strange stories from those who owned the globe, stories that hinted at something far darker than its serene appearance suggested. The first incident seemed innocuous enough. A woman in Colorado reported that her globe's music box played by itself in the middle of the night. She brushed it off as a mechanical glitch, but soon other owners shared similar experiences. Snow globes that lit up unexpectedly, faint whispers emanating from the base, and swirling snow that seemed to move even when the globe was untouched. These incidents were creepy, but not enough to dissuade most people from using the decoration. If anything, the rumors only added to the globe's mystique. Then came the accident. In a small town in New England, the Carson family had proudly placed their Winter Whispers globe on the mantel above their fireplace. One evening, as the family gathered to watch a Christmas movie, the globe shattered without warning, sending shards of glass and swirling artificial snow across the room. The family was startled but unharmed, until their young daughter, Emily, pointed to the mantel and said in a trembling voice, "He's still there." Confused, her parents asked what she meant. Emily hesitated before whispering, "The man inside the globe. He's watching us." The Carsons initially dismissed it as a child's overactive imagination, but Emily refused to go near the mantel after that night. When her parents reviewed their security camera footage, hoping to understand what had caused the globe to shatter, they saw something that sent chills down their spines. The recording showed the globe glowing faintly before a shadowy figure appeared, just for a moment, in the reflection of the fireplace glass. The video found its way online, quickly going viral. People began to speculate wildly about the globe's origin and its supposed curse. Theories ranged from the plausible, a manufacturing defect or hidden Easter egg in the design, to the bizarre, with some claiming the globe was linked to paranormal activity or ancient folklore. The more sensational the story, the more the public became obsessed. Ellen Rivera, a local historian with a passion for Victorian-era artifacts, stumbled across the growing controversy and decided to investigate. She discovered that the company behind the Winter Whispers globe had remained surprisingly silent despite the escalating media frenzy. Digging deeper, Ellen traced the globe's design to an obscure artist, Arthur Greaves, whose work was known for its eerie and macabre undertones. Greaves had died decades earlier under mysterious circumstances, and his estate had been auctioned off, with many of his designs sold to private collectors and manufacturers. The revelation added fuel to the fire. People speculated that the globe's design wasn't just inspired by Greaves. It might have been based on one of his cursed artifacts. One of his journals, uncovered by a collector, contained a chilling passage. "Art is a mirror to the soul, and sometimes it reflects what should remain unseen." As more stories about the globe emerged, the incidents became harder to dismiss. A family in London claimed that their globe started playing an unfamiliar melody late at night, one that none of them recognized. In Tokyo, an office worker reported that her globe fell off her desk and cracked open, revealing a strange symbol etched into the base. The symbol matched a recurring motif in Greaves's art, a spiral surrounded by small, indistinct figures. Despite the growing fear, the globe's allure only intensified. Some buyers sought it out precisely because of its reputation, hoping to experience the mystery for themselves. Meanwhile, Ellen began connecting the dots between the globe's strange occurrences and Greaves's cryptic writings. One passage in particular stood out: "The snow whispers truths only to those who dare to listen. But beware, for the truth is not always kind." As Ellen delved deeper into the mystery of the Winter Whispers globe, the stories surrounding it grew increasingly disturbing. Reports poured in from around the world, each more chilling than the last. A man in Berlin claimed his globe began emitting a faint mist that filled his living room with the scent of pine, a scent that lingered for hours even after the mist disappeared. In Sydney, a young couple swore they heard faint whispers emanating from their globe, as though someone inside were speaking in a language they couldn't understand. Yet, despite the mounting fear, the globe's popularity showed no signs of waning. Some dismissed the stories as fabrications, the result of overactive imaginations fueled by viral internet speculation. Others, however, were drawn to the globe precisely because of its eerie reputation, eager to own a piece of the growing legend. Ellen's investigation led her to Arthur Greaves's abandoned estate, a sprawling, decaying mansion on the outskirts of a small English village. The locals, wary of the property, spoke of strange lights and sounds that occasionally emanated from the house, even decades after Greaves's death. With the help of a collector who specialized in Victorian artifacts, Ellen gained access to the mansion's archives, where she discovered a trove of Greaves's sketches and writings. Among the papers was a design eerily similar to the Winter Whispers globe. The sketch depicted the same Victorian village enclosed in glass, but with a disturbing addition: shadowy figures lurking at the edges of the scene, their faces obscured. In the margins, Greaves had scrawled a cryptic note: "The Watcher sees all. The snow is his veil." Ellen felt a chill run down her spine as she read the words. Who or what was the Watcher? And what did Greaves mean by "the snow is his veil"? The implications were unsettling, but the more she uncovered, the clearer it became that the globe was not merely a charming decoration. It was something far more sinister, tied to Greaves's fascination with the supernatural. Meanwhile, the Robinson family, one of the first to report strange incidents with their globe, experienced another terrifying event. Late one night, Ellen Robinson was awoken by the sound of her dog growling at the mantel where the globe sat. When she entered the living room, she found the globe glowing faintly, its snow swirling even though no one had touched it. As she approached, the glow intensified, and for a brief moment, she thought she saw a face in the reflection of the glass. A pale, gaunt visage that disappeared the instant she blinked. Panicked, Ellen attempted to remove the globe, but it wouldn't budge from the mantel. It was as if it had fused with the wood. Desperate, she called Jake, who recorded the scene with his camera. The footage, later uploaded online, showed the globe's glow pulsating in time with a low, rhythmic hum. The video quickly went viral, reigniting the controversy and sparking fresh debates about the globe's origins. Ellen Rivera, still combing through Greaves's writings, found a particularly ominous passage in one of his journals. "The snow globe is not a prison. It is a window, and sometimes windows allow things to enter." The implication was clear: the globe was more than a decorative object. It was a conduit, a means for something beyond human comprehension to interact with the physical world. As word spread about the journal entry, a wave of panic swept through globe owners. Some attempted to destroy their globes, only to find them inexplicably resilient. Others reported that their globes seemed to resist being moved, as though anchored to their display locations. In one particularly unsettling case, a family in Canada claimed that after attempting to smash their globe, they found it whole and unscathed the next morning, back in its original position. Tech bloggers and skeptics joined the fray, conducting experiments to debunk the supernatural claims. While many dismissed the incidents as coincidences or clever marketing stunts, a few researchers uncovered anomalies they couldn't explain. One engineer discovered that the globes emitted faint electromagnetic signals, which seemed to fluctuate in the presence of human emotion. Another found that the globe's snow contained microscopic particles that reacted to changes in temperature, creating patterns that resembled written symbols. Despite the skepticism, the fear surrounding the globes grew. Online forums buzzed with speculation about the Watcher mentioned in Greaves's notes. Some theorized that the globes were connected to an ancient entity, a guardian or warden of sorts, bound to the objects by some long-forgotten ritual. Others suggested that the globes were portals, each one linked to a specific location or event in time. Ellen Rivera, piecing together the clues, began to see a pattern in the reported incidents. Many of the affected globes had been shipped to areas with a history of unexplained phenomena. Haunted houses, sites of tragic accidents, or locations with deep ties to folklore. It was as if the globes were drawn to places where the veil between worlds was already thin. The question remained, who had revived Greaves's design, and why? The company behind the Winter Whispers globe continued to avoid public scrutiny, offering vague statements about their commitment to quality and customer satisfaction. Yet, their silence only deepened the mystery, fueling speculation that they knew more about the globe's origins than they let on. As Christmas Eve approached, the globe's legend took on a life of its own. Families across the globe debated whether to keep their globes on display or banish them to storage. Some embraced the mystery, finding excitement in the possibility of owning something otherworldly. Others couldn't shake the feeling that the globes were watching and waiting. As Christmas Eve unfolded, the fear surrounding the Winter Whispers globe reached its peak. Online forums lit up with frantic posts, as users shared real-time updates about their experiences. Some claimed their globes had begun to glow brighter, their snow swirling without provocation. Others reported strange noises, whispers, faint laughter, or the sound of footsteps, seemingly emanating from the objects. The once beloved decoration was now a source of dread for countless families. For Ellen Rivera, the historian, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. Greaves's writings hinted at a ritual tied to the globes, one meant to reveal the hidden and call forth the watcher. While the details were murky, it was clear that Greaves believed his creation was more than art. He described it as a gateway, a tool to bridge the gap between the physical and the supernatural. But what exactly was meant to cross that bridge? Ellen's research uncovered another chilling connection. Among Greaves's personal effects was a list of dates and locations, events tied to tragedy and mystery, fires that had no discernible cause, towns that suffered sudden disappearances, and places where the line between folklore and reality blurred. One entry stood out. December 24, 1902, listed alongside the phrase, "The veil thins." Meanwhile, the Robinson family experienced yet another unsettling incident. As they gathered around their Christmas tree, their globe, which had remained silent for days, suddenly began playing its melody. Only this time, it was distorted, slower, and eerier than ever. Jake, always quick to document, captured the moment on camera. The snow inside the globe swirled violently, and for the first time, the faint outlines of figures could be seen within the Victorian village scene. Ellen Robinson froze as she recognized one of the figures, a man wearing a long coat and top hat, his face obscured by shadow. Desperate for answers, the Robinsons reached out to Ellen Rivera, who agreed to visit their home that evening. Armed with Greaves's notes and her own theories, she hoped to shed light on the globe's strange behavior. But as she entered their living room, she was struck by an overwhelming sense of unease. The globe, sitting atop the mantel, seemed to radiate an energy that was almost palpable. "I need to see it up close," Ellen Rivera said, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. Jake handed her his camera, showing her the footage he had recorded earlier. As she watched the swirling snow and shadowy figures, a memory surfaced. One of Greaves's sketches depicting a similar scene. The title of the drawing had been ominously simple. The arrival. Outside the Robinsons' home, the weather took an abrupt turn. The wind picked up, howling through the trees, and the temperature dropped sharply. It was as if the environment itself was responding to the globe. Neighbors reported strange occurrences: flickering lights, malfunctioning electronics, and an inexplicable sense of being watched. One neighbor, curious about the commotion at the Robinsons, approached their house, only to retreat in fear after seeing the faint outline of a figure standing near the window, a figure that didn't belong to the family. Inside, Ellen Rivera continued her examination of the globe. She noticed symbols etched into the base, previously hidden beneath a layer of decorative paint. Using a magnifying glass, she identified them as similar to those found in Greaves's journals, symbols tied to rituals meant to summon and bind. "This isn't just a decoration," she said. It's a vessel, and something is trying to come through. As midnight approached, the globe's behavior became more erratic. Its glow intensified, filling the room with a cold, bluish light. The snow inside began to swirl faster, creating a miniature blizzard that obscured the Victorian village entirely. Ellen Rivera realized that the globe was reacting to something, perhaps the proximity of midnight or the collective fear of those in the room. In that moment, the music box began to play again, its haunting melody filling the air. The Robinsons huddled together, their eyes fixed on the globe as the swirling snow began to slow. When it finally settled, the scene inside had changed. The once idyllic village was now dark, its streets empty and foreboding. The shadowy figure in the top hat stood at the center, his head tilted as though he were looking directly at them. Ellen Rivera took a step back, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's not just a watcher," she said. "It's a harbinger, and it's waiting for something." The lights in the house flickered, and the globe's glow began to pulse in time with the faint whispers that filled the room. The Robinsons stared in terror as the figure inside the globe raised a hand, its motion deliberate and chillingly human. For a brief moment, the whispers grew louder, forming words that echoed in their minds. "The veil is thin. The hour is near." The Robinsons' living room was steeped in an oppressive silence, broken only by the faint hum emanating from the winter whispers globe. The shadowy figure inside remained motionless, yet its presence felt tangible, as though it could step out of the glass at any moment. Ellen Rivera, clutching Greaves's notes, tried to make sense of the chaos. "We need to act," she said firmly. "If this globe is a vessel, we have to sever whatever connection it's trying to establish." But the question remained. How? Greaves's writings offered no clear solution, only cryptic warnings about breaking the chain and closing the veil. Ellen suspected that destroying the globe might be the answer, but the earlier accounts of globes resisting destruction left her uncertain. Would shattering it end the phenomenon, or unleash something far worse? Midnight approached, and the tension in the room became unbearable. The globe's glow intensified, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The whispers, once faint, now formed a chorus of overlapping voices, their words incomprehensible but filled with urgency. Ellen glanced at the mantel clock. "It's almost time," she said. "We have to try something now." Jake, ever resourceful, suggested using the family's camera equipment to capture any anomalies. "Maybe if we record it, we can understand what's happening," he said. Ellen agreed, setting up the camera to focus on the globe. As the device began to roll, the globe's snowstorm erupted again, obscuring the Victorian scene within. But this time, something was different. The snow seemed to spill out of the globe, defying the laws of physics as it spread across the mantel and onto the floor. The room grew colder, the air thick with an unearthly chill. The Robinsons backed away, watching in horror as the figure inside the globe began to move. Its hand lowered, and it took a deliberate step forward, the glass barrier no longer a constraint. Ellen shouted for everyone to stay back. "Don't engage with it. It's feeding off our fear," she yelled, her voice trembling. She rifled through Greaves's notes, searching for anything that might help. One phrase stood out: "Light severs darkness. The veil can only hold against the dawn." Realizing they needed a strong light source, Ellen instructed Jake to retrieve the family's high-powered flashlight. As the globe's glow pulsed in rhythm with the whispers, Ellen directed the beam directly at it. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the whispers turned into a deafening roar, and the figure inside the globe recoiled, its shadowy form flickering as though it were dissolving. The snowstorm intensified, swirling violently before collapsing inward. The globe shook on the mantel, its glow fluctuating between blinding brightness and total darkness. The whispers grew chaotic, overlapping into a cacophony that made it impossible to think. Ellen shouted for Jake to keep the light steady, but the flashlight flickered as its batteries began to fail. Just as the light dimmed, the globe emitted a final, piercing note, like the sound of shattering glass, though the globe itself remained intact. The snow inside froze mid-swirling, the glow extinguished in an instant. The room fell silent, the oppressive chill lifting as if a weight had been removed. The shadowy figure was gone, and the Victorian village seen inside the globe had returned to its original, peaceful state. The Robinsons and Ellen stood in stunned silence, unsure if the ordeal was truly over. Ellen approached the globe cautiously, her hand trembling as she reached for it. This time, it moved freely, as though whatever force had anchored it was gone. She examined the base, noting that the previously hidden symbols had faded entirely, leaving no trace of their existence. But the relief was short-lived. As the family gathered to discuss what had happened, Ellen's phone buzzed with a notification. It was an email from an anonymous sender, containing a single attachment, a photograph of another Winter Whispers globe in a different home. The scene inside the globe was identical to the Robinsons, including the shadowy figure which now faced the camera directly.